Thank you for coming to celebrate my father's life and support me and my family in doing so. This is a tribute to my dad. We'll sing Amazing Grace. I'll share some thoughts about my dad and his life. And then we'll sing Turn, 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 and I'll close with a poem. So we have the great fortune to have Prism come up and sing Amazing Grace. My father and the way he lived his life showed me that it's never too late to live the life you had hoped for and to never give up. Recently, I showed my dad a fun app on my iPhone that read his poem. And one of the characteristics it labeled on his hand is nurturing. He shrugged and dismissed the notion. Now, I found him to be nurturing in his own way. But I did not always feel this way. We grew into ourselves and each other and found our way together to greater peace and love over 50 years. If the purpose of life is to evolve by accepting and loving ourselves so we can love others, and in the process we heal our wounds, I have to say, job well done, Dad. Job well done. I learned a lot by watching and understanding my dad's journey. He mentored me with his knowledge, stories, and his actions. The last time I was able to have a conversation with my dad was 2 weeks before he was admitted to the hospital. He was without any sign of illness. I was between appointments near his nursing home and thought I would stop by for a brief 1-hour visit. He asked me about my life, my family, my business. I ended up sharing with him my pain over some very difficult family dynamics. I told him it had been a hard year and I was going away on retreat from my business and my life to spend some time in reflection, to heal and grieve numerous losses, which in the moment felt unbearable. My dad said, "Well, let me speak with your mother and we can look at our finances and what we can do for you." I said, "Dad, I don't need any money. It's not about financial support. I just need emotional support. And the fact that you're here listening to me, caring and concerned, means the world to me. Thank you." And he just said, "Well, you got it. That's my job." And by the way, my parents had been married for 27 years and had 6 children together. But at this point in time, they were divorced also 27 years. My dad was in a wheelchair in a nursing home without any funds. So the moment to me totally captured my dad. Elements of who he always was, which sometimes in the challenge of life, I couldn't always see. And elements of who he was in that moment and who he was becoming. He was present, he could listen, he was generous, kind, caring, compassionate, and concerned. Albeit, maybe not completely reality-based, but it was his heart that mattered in that moment. I did not know if this would be my last conversation with him, but I still left being grateful for the time we had together and cherishing the relationship we had developed. I loved him dearly. I felt loved and accepted by him. What else is there? Suddenly, the expectation of what his job was as a man and father was distilled down into this moment. Allowing the disappointments, issues of jobs, money, bills to fall away. 3 years ago, I spent 2 hours interviewing my dad about his life and everything he knew about his parents and ancestors. It was not only to get the facts, but to get what records do not keep, his thoughts and feelings about these people, to understand his relationship to them and their impact on his life. I videotaped it, and I actually did not watch it until 2 weeks after he died. I was struck by how patient he was in being frank and honest with whatever I asked him, even though some of it was very painful. This conveyed a generosity of spirit, of giving me what I was seeking. He was willing and able to go back to these places and share with me what he experienced and learned, and to have the strength and fortitude to overcome these early traumas. I was profoundly moved. It grew my compassion and deepened my understanding and respect and admiration for the hero's journey my dad walked in his life. I now understand why he was fascinated by the book Hero of a Thousand Faces and much of Joseph Campbell's work. Dad's journey was that of a spiritual warrior who grew from being a fighter to being at peace with himself and the world. He grew up in an educationally and culturally privileged environment that on the one hand held high expectations for who he was and what directions for his life he should take, and also did not always protect him from harm. My dad was an only child for the first 9 years of his life. His mother was sick in his first year, so his grandmother moved in and took care of him. This relationship proved to be one of the most nurturing relationships of his life. life. His grandmother, whom he called Sweetheart, because that's what she called him, taught my father how to read. He said she read him the entire book of knowledge before he entered kindergarten and told him, books will always be your friend. It's no wonder he was a walking encyclopedia. We often said he should go on some trivia show. He'd clean up. Dad told me his earliest memory was one morning. He was 4 years old, walking down the street in his pajamas, holding a piece of toast, and it was 6 in the morning, and he was excited just to be alive. It was a great day. He was just walking on the street, having a blast, and exploring the world. La-di-da. Suddenly, he couldn't remember who it was his mother or his father, came and said to him, "What are you doing? You can't do this. You gotta go home." He said, "Oh, why?" And that was my dad. Adventurous, curious, willing to take risks that sometimes people around him were very uncomfortable with and they did not understand. In those early years, he was beat up by neighborhood kids and also received beatings at home. As a preteen, he was beaten so badly that he had seizures and was hospitalized for a week. If the environment that nurtures us doesn't give us what we need, then we have two choices. We either cultivate what we need within, and that takes a very strong, hardy constitution, and or we transplant ourselves into different environments. And my dad did both. He cultivated a healthy strength and a will to fight for life and for his life, and to have his spirit be known. This also required that he eventually move away from his family and make career and family choices that they did not always approve of. I asked him how he was able to make the emotional separation. He just said, "I had to." It is easier to do nothing and to live with the status quo, to live on the surface and to not know. But to go against the prevailing mentality requires a strength of resolve, fortitude and character, which my father had. He knew he had to follow his own path and often encouraged us to do that as well. In the words of Joseph Campbell, if you follow someone else's way, you are not going to realize your potential. The goal is to live with godlike composure on the full rush of energy, like Dionysus riding a leopard without being torn to pieces. Dad lived his path with fervor and self-integrity. He was a courageous warrior, persistent with a battle of this thing called life. The warrior is that part of ourselves that protects emotional boundaries and asserts our needs in the world. Key words to describe the warrior are duty, honor, loyalty, discipline, boundaries. The warrior's tool is the sword of protection or assertion. And for my dad, this was the dance of his intellect. Whether it manifested itself in a stimulating lecture, oral fight, debate, or lively conversation. And Dad waged many a battle. Whether it was bosses, customers, store clerks, or one of us. Anywhere or anyone who he felt was not giving him what he needed or was less than competent. No matter what the personal cost, the warrior will always come to the rescue. Warriors are always ready to defend against any threat to home or family. When protecting others, nothing will stop them but a stronger power or being outnumbered or outwitted. As an adult, Dad reconciled with his father and vowed that he would not become an alcoholic, to keep his anger in check, and never to beat us. He was an advertising executive in a high-pressure industry with 6 children, 5 of whom were teenagers at once. Need I say more? And yet, he kept his vow. This was no small feat. I can only imagine, as a small business owner myself and a mother, the challenges he faced every day. Growing up, I absolutely adored my father. Every night, he'd walk off the train, tired and weary from battling the buck on Madison Avenue. And I'd run up to him, give him a hug, and I'd say, "Hi, Daddy, how was your day?" And once he told me, "You know, that is really nice to come through the door and to be welcomed and hugged and have someone glad to see me." And then when I was 20, there was a boy who liked me and left on my doorstep, actually on my birthday, a big, large, stuffed dog. And I remember my father saying to me, "That is a very affectionate present. Do not discount that lightly. Affection is very important." And it wasn't until I was an adult that I came to understand these profound messages about affection, how they were for my dad and for me as well. Dad grew up in a very harsh environment, and he deliberately put himself in a very harsh environment where he had to prove himself every day as a sales executive on Madison Avenue. A few months ago, my dad said to me, "Well, most of my life I was pretty bombastic." And I said, "Dad, really? Why do you think that is?" And he said, "Well, you know, I guess I needed that just to get myself going." He felt he needed all that to get out of a potential inertia. Or maybe, perhaps, if he didn't, he might not survive. Conditioning and the imprint we receive in childhood can be so powerful. When my dad left the fighting in Philadelphia, the fight remained in him. Most of my dad's life, he was an angry, feisty guy, up for an argument or a good debate. He could sometimes alienate or piss people off. He lost jobs in the process. He'd get himself into trouble, especially with bosses he either perceived to be less than intelligent or less than competent than he was, or asking him to do something that he felt was outside his integrity. So one example of this is one time he was a sales executive with Playtex, and his quota was to sell so many bras and girdles. And he said, they wanted me to sell, this quota to the small business owner, and they didn't need it and they couldn't use it. And I wouldn't do it. And so it didn't make any sense to me. And so, they eventually said to me, "It's not working out." And I said, "Okay." But you know what? He always found jobs quickly and was willing to put his ego aside to do whatever he needed to do. At some point, he went from working in a high-profile account executive job in New York City to working at McDonald's and even an appliance store in town. As he said, "I did whatever it took to put food on the table." And he became adept at creative financing and negotiating with creditors. In my interview with him, he told me, when I was 40, I went into therapy because I thought there was something wrong with me because I kept losing jobs. And I was in therapy for a year, and then this psychiatrist said to me, "There's nothing wrong with you. Go back to work. You just had bad luck." So we all gather fragments of our lives and put them together to try to make something beautiful. We all have shards of our broken pottery pieces, our broken lives, that we try and glue together to make a whole container to contain our lives. And when we admit we are broken, this is where the real healing starts. Dad seemed relieved to know there was nothing wrong with him and continued to wage his battle against the world to support and protect his family. I asked him, "Dad, with all your challenges and job changes, how did you keep going?" He said, "I just had to keep going. I just had to always figure out a way." And he did. He often pulled rabbits out of hats. Growing up, if I asked my dad a question, let's say it was something about how the government worked. Not only he would go into the origin, and suddenly we'd be talking about ancient civilization, or the Greek classics, or the fall of the Roman Empire. I had a moment where I said, you know, I don't even need to go to college. I can just listen to my dad and read his book list. He was proud of the fact that his grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, was a college graduate in the 1800s, and he always encouraged me to be my best and to be an independent woman. I even had the great fortune of having a 6-week internship with him while I was a freshman in college. This allowed me to see him in action, giving persuasive presentations to clients. Dad rarely took vacations and showed us that it is through hard work and tenacity of life that we find the riches. As Joseph Campbell says, it's by going down into the abyss that we discover the treasures of life. The very cave that you're afraid of either turns out to be the very source of what it was you were looking for. The damn thing in that cave that was so dreaded can become the center of your life. I witnessed my dad's journey from head to heart, from books to people. Moving from meeting life on his terms to meeting life on life's terms and reconciling with his family. There is no greater work than this, the work of meeting your life lessons head on. For this, Dad, you are my spiritual hero. In his last move, he landed in Northbridge Nursing Home 2.5 years ago. I don't know if it was having his blood sugar regulated, the care and support of the staff, or just what he came to in life, or a combination of all three. But he came to a point of peace within himself, with life, and with those around him. And at one point, he said to my husband Dan, in a very surprised-like tone, you know, I'm not angry anymore. And as Susan will tell you, that's very unusual for me. And I said, Dad, yes it is. So he was quite charming and endearing, and captured the hearts of the staff. They all loved him, and every time we went to see him there, he would say, the operative word of this place is kind. People are kind here. Every time I left, I just felt relief, as his child, that he was safe and taken care of. In the years leading up to this home were very difficult, and especially after his second wife died. So that was a real comfort. A couple of months ago, Dad said to me, I'm dying. I'm going to slowly fade away. Well, life's gone on before me, and life's going to go on after me. It's been a great ride. I've done everything I wanted to do. I have 6 great children and grandchildren. Dad, you gave us all a full ride of life. I think we went to every corner of the world with you. The highs, the lows, the joys, the anger, the frustration, the absurd laughter, your wonderful sense of humor. In life, people show you their love or their wounds. Love helps us heal the wounds. We all do the best we can with what we've been given. Our task is to further the work of love. It's a multi-generational process, and we can't do it alone. We love, we heal, and we pass it on. Dad was a force of nature, and with an indomitable intellect and spirit that could not be contained. At the heart, he was a sensitive, kind, compassionate, loving man who showed us the drive and tenacity of spirit. He found the intersection of meeting life on his terms and meeting life on life's terms. These qualities remain with us. Thank you, Dad. Job well done. They say that people often die the way they lived. This was not the case with my dad, which is a testament to how he kept growing and evolving his life's and soul's work up until the end. Being isolated and fighting out his life, he died with acceptance and dignity, peacefully and gracefully, surrounded by his family, his children and grandchildren, and we got to say goodbye and love him dearly. How blessed we all are. Thank you. My father preferred T.S. Eliot and James Joyce. So, Dad, I hope you forgive me. I'm going to recite a poem from the E-Guns. Okay? It's called I Carry Your Heart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. And whatever is done by only me is your doing. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than the soul can hope, or our mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. Thank you, Dad. for giving your perfect gifts and in teaching me never ever to give up on allowing my spirit and your spirit to shine. Namaste, which in the yoga tradition means the light in me honors the light in you. When I am in this place in me, and you are in this place in you, we are one, and the whole universe resides in peace. So may it be. Thank you. Thank you for coming.